Thunderbolts asterisk there.
Mhm.
Thunderbolts is the 36th film in the MCU franchise here. It is involves this ragtag group of team put together here to stop a character by the name of Sentry. There, this villain that they have who is all powerful, all strong, and like, what can these group of losers, as they call each other, what can they do to stop this powerful threat? You also have Julius Dreyfus, who returns as Valentina Allegra de Fontaine there, a government agent there, who is all about secrecy, all about corruption, who is the one who is responsible for the program there that created this character. And she also enlists the help of these various characters at some point in their lives to do various black ops things and cover up for the secrets of I think the company she had was Ox, I think was the company, right?
Yeah, Ox is kind of like one of those other companies in the Marvel universe that's very similar to like BAME or Hammer Tech.
Yeah, so she's got that.
Yeah, it's fairly new too.
Yeah, so got that going on. She's an even more evil version of Nick Fury. It seems like they're setting that up for her there. And a lot of these movies, of course, the question now that we're in the 36th film in this franchise is, okay, how much homework do I have to do before I come and see this? You know, how many shows, how many movies do I have to watch before this? I would say that yes. I mean, it does help to give more context to who these characters are and their backstories if you do see them in their original things, like Ghost or Taskmaster, or even Yelena, who both those characters, Taskmaster and Yelena from Black Widow, and then Ghost was from the second Ant-Man film. She was one of the antagonists of that. John Walker, who I think this is his first appearance in any MCU film, if I'm correct.
Yeah, this is his first time in a feature. But yeah, it was like, you know, I think everyone and their mom kind of watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier when it came out.
Yeah, so he was one of the antagonists of that show, Falcon and the Winter Soldier there. You have Red Guardian, who was also from the Black Widow movie. Bucky, who's been with these movies a lot today. I don't even know what number of movie this is for Sebastian Stan.
They signed him to like a 9-film deal like 10 years ago, so I don't even know where they're up to.
So he's in there for the long haul for there. So people are probably very familiar with his character playing James Buchanan Barnes, who, if people didn't see the latest Captain America movie, it got revealed that he's a congressman now. He's Congressman Bucky. Somebody voted for a literal Russian agent, former Russian agent, to become.
I mean, if you look at politics now, it's not that far fetched.
Sure.
Yeah, and most likely though, the funny thing is he would be in Hakeem Jeffries' district, which is a very strong Democratic district, which really makes you wonder, like, did he run as a Republican and win, or
what? I'm curious.
Or is he a Democrat?
What the hell did Bucky run on? Because I think the movie does a good job. It makes it clear he's not exactly a good congressman.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like he's a very charismatic speaker. I mean, yeah, he's good looking, but it's like, he's not very good with words.
I guess that's all you need to win votes, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I guess he's got I helped save the universe. You know, I fought in the battle of, in the end games. I guess he's got that going for him.
Yeah, both Captain Americas can vouch for him. That's his way in.
That is true.
Yeah, so that's the team here you got assembled with this. And I know that I think Jeff, you came on there when we did the trailer reaction there for Thunderbolts. I think you were assistant on that, if I remember correctly. And we talked about it and just anticipation for it. And I wasn't really too big on myself. What were your thoughts on the trailer there, Jay? When the trailer?
Oh, I thoroughly enjoyed the trailer. I was kind of ready for it because it just seemed to hit the right buttons. But like, I was also very cautious because it's not the Thunderbolts of the comics at all. Like, it's maybe two of the Thunderbolts. Teams kind of like mixed up a bit. I was down for it, though. I was ready.
So I was kind of right there with you. I was excited looking at the trailer, but I was more so interested because of who was behind the camera in this. That this was being directed by Jake Schreier and co-written by Joanna Callow. Jake Schreier, he directed a lot of Netflix's Beef, and Joanna Callow, she wrote one of I think the best episodes of television with the Christmas episode of The Bear, and also wrote for Hacks and BoJack Horseman, which this movie being released during Mental Health Awareness Month, there was a very clear line into why she is uniquely qualified to write this movie, because we're dealing with characters, especially with Yelena and a lot with Bob, who's played by Lewis Pullman, about their kind of melancholy and their sense of nihilism with the world.
Yeah. I'm pass around. Get you guys' thoughts on this. Jay, what are your thoughts on Thunderbolts?
This was a lot of fun. I do think they had this great opening fight scene between the characters, and I love that. But then everything else after that, I mean, honestly, like the great homage to Terminator 2 with Bucky, which I thoroughly loved. A lot of the fight scenes just seemed like they were taking from something else and not going back to what worked in that great opening, big fight scene when they all meet each other, because like that actually played with their strengths, played with their powers, and was wholly original. And I mean, even whenever the people kind of got dusted, it felt, a lot of it just felt like kind of reusing ideas or rehashing stuff. And I think it could have been slightly better. I think the third act's a little weaker than the first two acts, but man, that first act was strong.
Yeah. Chris, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I have made no secret in the past my distaste for the recent run of Marvel movies and shows. I'm not going to reiterate them again. You can watch past episodes that I've been on here and also other shows for that. So I looked at the trailer and I was like, all right, there might be something here. It's Marvel in their post-Endgame run, so it probably won't take advantage of that, but I don't know. I'll wait and see. And then I heard enough good things from people who are on a similar boat to me regarding Marvel, and also the director being attached and Florence Pugh getting a chance to lead like a big action movie. All combined were sort of like enough of a carrot for me to be like, all right, I'll take the bait. I'll go check this out just for the hell of it, see what's up. And I was pleasantly surprised how much I did end up enjoying it. I do think it starts off a little slow, and not all of the humor lands for me. Like some of it does still feel like the Marvel humor that I've just gotten kind of tired of rearing its head. But there was enough of the humor that was working for me, which did feel a lot more in line with stuff that would be in The Bear or BoJack Horseman or Beef, that ended up getting more into it as the movie went along. And I did end up really getting into the dynamics that all the different characters have with each other. Even characters that I borderline forgot even existed, like Ghost from Ant-Man, I ended up liking more this time. And I think it does help having Pugh in the lead. Like she's one of those actresses who can elevate basically anything that you throw at her. She's the only thing that makes that "Don't Worry, Darling" movie worth sitting through. But a lot of the rest of the supporting cast does do a really good job. It's the first time that I've actually liked Julia Louis-Dreyfus in one of these movies where she actually felt important and essential to the big picture and the narrative, and not just tacked on like, hey, here's this character who might be important 80 movies and shows down the line, who knows. But the character who I think really does make this sing is Bob, played by Lewis Pullman. And he's an actor that I've always liked. I remember seeing him in Bad Times at El Royale years ago, and him really making a strong impression there. And obviously popping up in Top Gun and the other stuff that he's been in. But here I think this is the chance for him to really get to shine and show off what he can do as an actor and what he can bring, the qualities that he can bring to a part. And he makes the character really charming and sympathetic to where you do end up getting invested in him and his journey as the story progresses, particularly when it gets to the third act. And I think the third act, I like that it doesn't devolve into the typical Marvel climax of which blob of pixels can outpunch the other blob of pixels. Like, I know that at least back when the movie got announced, people were complaining about there being no like Abomination or no Abomination-esque character to the dynamics of the team, like their power set and whatever. And I think that ends up working for the movie in a really strong way because it allows the action to keep from getting so bombastic that your eyes just kind of glaze over, which I think has been an issue with Marvel lately. The action feels a lot more tactile, a lot more grounded, a lot more Terminator 2-esque, as Andrew said. I think that also helps that it doesn't feel like a typical superhero movie. It feels more like a boots on the ground, sort of like reluctant team up action flick. Sort of like, what if the Expendables was good? Sort of like that thing. Like if the Expendables actually lived up to the potential that it initially had. Yeah, I think it's also got like a really strong emotional through line in terms of how it deals with with a couple of characters' depression and loneliness, and how it actually gives that idea the room that it needs to really like breathe and come to the forefront when it needs to. And it's not like the whole movie is just that. Like it's not like After Sun of Marvel movies where the movie is designed to have you walk out of the theater feeling sort of depressed. Like it puts that off to the side when it needs to. Like the movie is still fun for a lot of it, but when it does need to come into the forefront and make that like sort of drive home that that's what the whole point of the story is, I do buy into it and I am invested. So yeah, this is the first Marvel movie in a while that didn't have James Gunn or Ryan Coogler's names on it, where I actually did find myself really like getting invested in it on a story level, and not just like, oh, there's that thing I recognize from another movie or a comic or whatever. Like it feels like a movie made by someone who actually had an idea for the movie, and not just like, here, let's put this out to tease something else, or it's on the schedule, let's just get it out there. So I really appreciated it for that.
Yeah, Nick, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I gotta echo a lot of points that both Chris and Jay are saying. That I was, excited for this movie because of who was behind the camera, and also that this is Florence Pugh getting to lead one of these movies, because I thought she was easily the highlight of Black Widow, which is a movie that I'm not crazy about, but I think is worth watching just for her performance in that, and seeing the evolution of that character and how she plays off of the rest of the cast, especially David Harbour, who they have such a great arc in this movie. The big scene stealer of this is Lewis Pullman as Bob, who's an actor that I really like, and in the stuff I've seen him in, I really like him in Bad Times the El Royale. I think Lessons in Chemistry on Apple is a very underrated show, especially with him and Brie Larson. But this is the first time where I think in a long time in a Marvel movie that doesn't have James Gunn or Ryan Coogler, where this felt like there was an idea for a story based around character here, that this wasn't just, okay, this is on the slate, we need to follow up with these characters after Endgame, we need to just push a movie out to, sell more toys, which I feel like a lot of the Marvel slate has, been. It's like, as much as I wanted to like Captain America Brave New World, that movie just felt like this was corporate product that they had to push out a Captain America movie before Avengers. And with this felt like, okay, Jake Schreier, Joanna Callow, they had a story that they wanted to tell with these characters. They wanted to explore something, especially something I'll get more into when we get to spoilers, and that this is a team that does feel grounded. This is, these are the losers of the MCU, but they do such a good job of paying off that, because at any point, especially in the first act, which I think is the strongest point in this movie, because they are set up they were put on this assignment to kill each other. And then they, have to come together as a team, and they do a good job of dancing that line of, okay, when are they going to actually turn on each other? But that never happens.
Yeah, I was a person skeptical about this movie coming in. I wasn't super excited about it. And there are a lot of people in Chris's position that go like, okay, after Endgame, it's like, okay, I'm done. I don't. It's like after that point, it's like you had the big extravaganza. I don't want to see any more of these. And then some people complain about the quality of these recent movies after Endgame. And then even if there's a mildly decent one, the new slogan is "Best since Endgame." Best since Endgame. Best since Endgame.
Even the movies post Endgame that I've liked, kind of most of them, I'd say, except Guardians, Black Panther, and Shang-Chi, all of them kind of have a big ass asterisk next to that. Yeah, I liked it, but
yeah, that's the new kind of thing there with it. But yeah, I was very much surprised by this. I did like what this movie had to say. I did like what had this movie going on. I think it does play into the fact because, as Chris said, there were a lot of people complaining, including me, about the lineup. It's like, okay,
Mhm.
well, even they even make a joke about that of like, hey, it's a bunch of people who like, okay, it's fake ass Captain America, another fake ass Captain America, assassin, assassin,
Wait,
assassin.
wait. So we all just punch and shoot?
Yeah, I mean, that's basically what you got. So it's not that much diversity in the team power wise, but it does come to, it does have a point in the movie of, like you said, these are the forgotten characters of kind of a lot of the MCU there for some of these people. Like, not, I mean,
Mhm.
I don't know if there's a lot of huge Ghost fans and
Mhm.
people who are
Yeah,
fans of this.
yeah, and
Uh,
even like because in the Thunderbolts in the comics, they were villains. The Thunderbolts in the comics is basically just Suicide Squad,
Well,
and they managed
no,
to do some.
no. Suicide Squad's very different, but like,
Okay,
it depends on which version of Thunderbolts because there's like 5 different versions. So,
okay,
to be clear, some of them skew maybe a little closer, but for the most part, the conceit is supervillains pretending to be superheroes.
oh, okay, and here it's like none of these people were like straight up supervillains. There was always like a big
No,
asterisk next to all of the, horrible things that they did. It was like Ghost, she was, raised from childhood to be an assassin. John Walker, he was, decorated combat veteran who was, you know, in a perfect world, the perfect candidate to be Captain America, but the pressure got to him. Even Yelena is like another child assassin, Taskmaster, brainwashed up until the events of Black Widow.
mm, yeah. So yeah, you kind of got that going on there with this, and I think they do a good job exploring the dynamics of these characters. And like I said, do you have to see all the other things that they've come from? It
Mhm,
helps, but I think they do a good job with the expository dialogue, giving everybody
mhm.
their backstories. Like, oh, you're this person who does this, and
Yeah,
you did this,
and
and
this
they do a good job.
and this and the movie does a good job is because I think audiences are kind of savvy enough to where okay, we can feel the movie stop and just give an exposition dump, but every bit of dialogue, it does a good job of grounding it in humor and making it, feel natural when there is like a bit of exposition dumping.
Yeah,
Especially with the character backstories for people who aren't as inside baseball as, the rest of us who've seen all these movies.
yeah. And you mentioned, Suicide Squad, something that was directed by James Gunn. He went to
Mhm.
leave Marvel and join DC and do Suicide Squad. And he's kind of very famous and popularized the whole thing. Not that he invented it, but the formula of a ragtag group of losers, misfits, brought together to save the world, to do a greater good. Guardians, Suicide Squad, Creature Commandos, even Peacemaker. But I think that there is enough personality on its own identity, Thunderbolts. It's not just like, oh, it's just we're trying to do James Gunn. I think it has its
Mhm.
own identity there. What do you think about that, Jay?
Yeah, this is a very different type of movie from Guardians or even Suicide Squad. With Suicide Squad, there's like an element of shadiness to every good thing that the characters do, just by the nature of like who is in that cast. And with Guardians, they that movie it has a different subject matter than this one is trying to explore.
Yeah. What about you, Andrew? What do you say?
yeah, it's this is more of like the loser squad, finally
Mhm,
having their moment. Whereas like you know, Guardians, just a bunch, they're kind of a bunch of misfits who kind of aligned on the same thing and just kind of came together as a weird family.
mhm,
Um, that still misfits, but not like these people all have like real issues. And what I like about this is that they really did ground that the issues of depression and
mhm.
alienation and
Yeah, it
mental health, and they did
yeah,
a great job with that.
Yeah, and I kind of saw this at the perfect time because yeah, I've been dealing with my own issues related to that, and it and I love movies, especially this is the first time in a long time with Marvel that I felt seen by a movie like this. This movie does such a good job of putting a face and giving a name to a condition like depression more so than I think any other piece of media that I've seen in such a long time that I can't help but love this movie.
Mm.
Yeah, and I mean the fact that like I have my wife's bipolar, and like as Bob's describing his symptoms, I'm like, oh, it's bipolar, but they didn't have to say it. They gave you just enough information.
And just by the nature of who his character is, because I know we've said it before, but to not spoil it completely.
Yeah. Have you read the comic?
I've read a little bit of Sentry. I think the only one that I really saw him being a prominent character was in I think Bendis's New Avengers run back in the 2010s.
Okay.
That one where it was like the prison
where they
break.
retconned him to death. Yeah. The original one is kind of amazing because they actually it was originally developed by Rick Veitch and Paul Jenkins, and somewhere along the lines, Veitch didn't. They actually did a story together that was like a proto-century, which was more or less dealing with depression and alcoholism. That you might want to track down. I think it was in Taboo, if I remember correctly. Yeah. I mean, Rick Veitch is great. Paul Jenkins is also great. A British writer who did not come in through 2001 like Alan Moore and all those other guys did for so many years, but he actually came to America and broke into indie comics. So he's got a kind of a unique style to a lot of his writing, and that's why he ended up at Marvel writing the Wolverine's origin and Century, and an actual really good Inhumans comic.
Nice, very good.
Unlike that movie or TV series.
Yeah. So yeah, gonna get you guys final thoughts, rating for it, and go into spoiler talk there after that. Chris Ayers, what are your thoughts there? Final thoughts, rating man, for Thunderbolts there.
Yeah, this is the first Marvel movie in a while where I was actually like engaged with it and wasn't just sort of rolling my eyes at a bunch of jokes that weren't funny and a bunch of sequel teases that I don't care about and Easter eggs that mean nothing to me because I'm not someone who reads comics like every day of my life. But yeah, I really enjoyed most, if not all, of the characters. They actually give each of them like their own sort of arc that plays out across the movie in a way that feels earned, and it makes me want to see more of them. It's not quite enough to where like I'm fully like back on board the Marvel train. Like they've got stuff coming up that I'm still sort of skeptical about, but it is enough to make me go like, all right, if they end up making more movies that I hear from people I trust, not people who insist that everything they do post Endgame is amazing. People who like approach it with like a healthy level of skepticism. If they're also saying that like, hey, this is as good, if not better, than Thunderbolts, then yeah, it's enough to where like, all right, within reason, I will still go see these movies if they have something to offer me that speaks to what I like in a movie, which this manages to do, where it delivers on the set pieces and the fun that these movies should, but it's also got a little more going on beneath the surface than it presents itself as in the marketing. So yeah, I'd say tune in.
Okay. What about you there, Nick?
Yeah, kind of like what Chris is saying, that this is, I can, genuinely say no asterisk, no like other bullshit, that this is the best Marvel movie that I've seen in such a long time. This feels like it's going back to the magic of what made phase 1 to 3 so good, where it is a story about character and theme first, and all the superhero stuff is just gravy with it. The story that they're telling with this ragtag group of misfits, they do such a good job of giving every character their arc and their moment to shine, and they do such a good job of playing off each other that I was, captivated completely. Especially, I think the first act is phenomenal, and the second act is good, but not as great. The third act, it does something that I don't think any Marvel movie had done in a long time, which is showcase the strength of these characters, not as, these are going to be the guys that are, saving the world, punching the big blob of CG pixels. This is the group that makes it point to like showcase them saving civilians, which I don't think any Marvel movie has done since like Age of Ultron, which is like kind of insane. And the real final emotional climax of this movie, it was one that I was kind of sobbing in my seat as I was watching the movie, especially once you get to a certain scene with Yelena and Bob. It was like, I gotta give this. This is peak bordering on cinema for me. This is one of my favorites of the year so far.
Wow.
This is one that I'm, excited if Marvel takes the right lesson from the success of this movie. Because, coming off of, a lot of the press from this, a lot of the failings of phases 4 and 5, it might have been issues related to how Disney was handling this. It might not be, but hopefully they learned the right lesson, because unlike a lot of the other MCU movies, this one looks and feels like an actual film. This looks like sets were used. They, tried to minimize effects. It was like the big aspect of the marketing is we used real stunts in this.
Yeah.
It was like we shot stuff on location. We, wanted to do as much practical as we could. We didn't like overly rely on the volume or green screen.
They blew up that building.
They killed people.
Yeah. They really sent people to the Shadow Realm.
It was amazing.
Yeah. It was awesome. But yeah, I really love this. This is probably my favorite movie since Endgame. And it did a rare thing, because I was kind of skeptical. It was like by the time Thunderbolts came around, it was like Marvel movies, this event from my childhood and my young adulthood. It was like I was there opening night every Marvel movie. And lately it's felt more like a chore than it ever has in my life. And it feels like, I don't know if we're completely back yet, but some of that magic is back, at least with this one. And I'm excited for Fantastic Four and what they do with that.
So, peek from Nick there, border on the cinema. Andrew, what about you? What's your final thoughts rating there?
The one thing about Marvel Comics that always appealed to me is the fact that their comics were very grounded and character driven. Unlike the other was DC, was kind of the two. And DC was always very corporate top down because it was owned by Warner Brothers forever. Whatever. That doesn't that's not really but what made the Marvel movies great is that they understood that those lessons that Stan Lee and Jack Kirby gave to us in those early days of Marvel, and make those character driven stuff. And you can get a little crazy, which Marvel movies are fairly tamed down from the comics. I mean, my favorite thing about the original, the very first issue of Thunderbolts, is that they were a bunch of villains masquerading as heroes, like brand new heroes. And at the end of the first issue, the Citizen 5 pulls off his mask to reveal he's Baron Zemo, but he's wearing the Baron Zemo mask because in the comics he glued that thing to his face. So it's just stupid fun, and I love that stuff. But they don't do that in the movies. That's fine. I'm okay with that. You don't always you can get a little goofy, but this is so I also have a very high tolerance for this shit, because I watched all that stuff from the 80s and 90s and 70s growing up, and loved it. And even though a lot of that's garbage. But anyways, yeah, no. So this is actually nice to kind of get back to the roots of what not just Marvel movies, but what Marvel comics are. Is grounded people, real people dealing with stuff. It's not just that Spider-Man is going to go around and beat somebody up. It's that, oh no, Aunt May's sick and he has to get her prescription while this bank's being robbed.
Yeah, he's trying to get Aunt May that toaster at the bank. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So what would be your rating there? What would you?
Definitely tune in.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, we've kind of gone back and forth. A lot of people are like, Marvel's so bad. No, Marvel's done. No, Marvel's so bad. No, Marvel's done. Or everything is the best since Endgame. I don't think. I think the best movie for me since Endgame, if I had to pick one, is Guardians 3. But I think Thunderbolts is below it. I think it's like either 2 or 3. This or Wakanda Forever is battling there for 2 or 3. And yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by this. I liked a lot of the cast here and what they did with the characters. I liked what they did with Lewis Pullman coming in as the Bob character there, and how this movie is representing depression, is representing mental illness there. I thought that was very well done there, and this movie will hit you in the feels there, and you're probably not expecting that, maybe with a Marvel movie. And I thought that was really good. Florence Pugh, being one of the pretty much the leads of this really, and I think Florence Pugh also as Yelena has been one of the best things character-wise since post Endgame. I think that's what a lot of the kind of loss of direction with the MCU is. Who are the new real big characters that we're following now that there is no more Black Widow, there is no more Tony Stark, there is no more Steve Rogers. Who are the new big characters that were newer that we're going to get interested in and invested in and follow? And I think Florence Pugh as Yelena does a great job at that. And I think she's been one of the bigger things to come out of the MCU since Endgame. There, I've been very impressed by that. So I love that. And to Chris Ayers' point, the ending of this, it isn't your typical superhero ending, punch, punch, shoot, shoot. Two big CGI armies fight each other. There isn't that. There isn't the beam in the sky. There isn't that in this, so which I very much greatly appreciated. So it's a very, very much different tone there you get from your normal superhero movie, which I liked a lot. And it showed, like I said, more of like the personality and actual creativity of the artist, of the director, of the writers coming into this to tell their story, which I did like. And the action scenes or look good. And I don't think there was any really bad effect moment in here for me. And the moment where you get to like you see in the trailer where people are just disappearing, that looks horrifying. I mean, that looks really
the way it starts too is kind of horrifying.
Yeah. That was really well done. The humor in it, I disagree with Chris Ayers' point on just I don't think it has your typical annoying Marvel. I mean, there's Red Guardian who's the main comic relief.
He's the main comic relief, but everything in the humor, especially with him, because he is meant to be Yelena's goofy dad.
Yeah,
and he's even in Black Widow. That was kind of a thread of his character. He was like, he's basically Bob from The Incredibles, where he's yearning for his glory days. If they were ever a thing.
Yeah. So I don't think so. I think they balance the humor. It's not so overly jokey like how most of these Marvel movies are. I think they balance it pretty well for me. So for me, I would give this a strong tune in for me with this. So high peak from Nick there, tune in from Chris, tune in from Andrew there, as well with Thunderbolts there. And we're going to get into a spoiler review and do that. So if people have not seen it, have not heard about it, which I don't know how you haven't, they basically put the rip off billboards.
Yeah, they had my man Sebastian Stan putting up billboards for this. It was like, damn, those tariffs are hitting hard.
Yeah. So this is the spoiler talk right now. And so why it's called Thunderbolts Asterix, as we learn, is that's not the real team name here. They become the new Avengers. So this team that you see on the screen are the new Avengers here. But they're now, instead of Nick Fury leading up the Avengers as being kind of the main head figure, you have Julia Louis-Dreyfus' character who's doing that. Kind of forced to do it in a way to cover up for her terrible deeds that what she did.
Oh yeah, because it's like it was kind of hilarious to see that, because this all is being set off because she was responsible for the Sentry Project, which is, a lot of illegal experimentations on humans. A lot of subjects died, so she's, scrambling to cover up, and she sent all of the members of our Thunderbolts to this vault to be incinerated, and Bob included.
Yeah.
And who knows who else was in there?
Yeah. And Taskmaster, as we probably called it already, didn't make it out.
Yeah, the one who was in like one trailer and none of the other marketing. It was like, oh, they killed the fuck out of Taskmaster.
Yeah, it was kind of obvious of who was going to be the expendable one there. Even though I thought she'd be killed by Sentry and not just I thought she'd be probably killed by Sentry.
She's the Slipknot of this movie for sure.
Yeah.
Apparently the original script of the movie had her live, and there's a big thing where Ghost becomes her mentor.
I remember seeing that. There was like a running gag where Taskmaster would like forget things and start trying to kill John Walker.
Yeah, and the problem is that like everything that they did with her was already being repeated by like everything else in the movie. And just so killing her off made sense. But apparently the guy who wrote the first draft didn't read the other drafts. So when he saw the movie, he was actually shocked that they killed her.
Oh. Well, at least he was surprised. He was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
hey, something new." Hey,
So I'm assuming that people who didn't, who don't pay attention to things, who aren't like online too much like we are, had that same reaction to that. So
yeah, which I mean, I imagine not a lot of people are that sad about it. I know Taskmaster was a pretty hated character from Black Widow, and the way that was done.
It was like there was a way in which that movie's interpretation of Taskmaster could have worked, but I'm kind of like, that character is gone.
Yeah. So you got that. So yeah, so a lot of the movie is them kind of teaming up to really kind of expose Valentina De Fontaine there, expose her for basically trying to get them all killed.
Yeah, they're not. That isn't even their goal at first. Their goal is just get out of Dodge and survive. It isn't until Bucky captures them in that like epic Terminator 2 montage, and that they, that Valentina has captured Bob and is like trying to turn him into the Sentry as her puppet.
Yeah.
Which apparently before he filmed that scene, he was actually listening to the score of Terminator 2.
Nice.
So through his head, while he's like on the motorcycle filming, his brain's just like ba-dum.
I love it. And especially like because this is context, because Walker knows Bucky, he's fought with him, he's like hyped to see his boy again, and then the grenade pops up on the back of their car. It's like, shit.
Yes.
So they become at the very end the new Avengers there, as you see. And there are post-credit scene. There's a first there, mid one, and then there's a end one there. And I feel like a lot of these end credit scene, a lot of these ones, these new recent Marvel have been pretty terrible across the board. But this one actually is really good, it's really strong, and it does set up. You see them, and they have their own. I think they're in the Avengers Tower.
They're in the original Avengers Tower. Valentina is the one who bought it, which that was a mystery that's been set up since Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Yes.
Yeah. So she was the one that bought it there. So they're there. Bucky's hair looks fantastic. He's got a nice,
just gorgeous. It was like that. My whole thing was like during the whole fight scene with Sentry, because as he should have, he dog walks them. He's like kind of nervous at first, and even Lewis Pullman in the super suit, he like looks uncomfortable. He looks like a kid playing dress up. And even just more and more as the fight scene goes on, he's just getting more annoyed and just gets bored from whooping their asses. Even Bucky, who like tries to like aura farm, take his jacket off, show off them biceps, it's like rips his arm off and slaps him with it.
Yeah, rips his arm like Buzz Lightyear. Yeah, he's always losing that arm, man. He's always losing that. Yeah. But Sentry can basically do everything in the book. He can fly. He's strong. He's got a form of telekinesis. He's got like a invulnerable shield around him, and he's also just purely invulnerable there.
It's like, it was so funny, especially because originally Bob was supposed to be played by Steven Yeun, and you could hear it like in the dialogue because they dropped the name Invincible so many times.
Oh, yeah. And there's concept art of Steven Yeun as the character. Did do the concept art. I think he had to drop away because
there was schedule conflicts with Mickey 17.
Yeah, so he did that there. So he dropped out for that. Chris Ayers, what do you think about kind of some of the spoilers? Anything you want to get into there?
I mean, you guys covered pretty much everything. Even a blind man could have seen that Taskmaster was going to die. I was still caught off guard how quickly they killed her off, to the point that I'm wondering why they even bothered like getting the actress back. Like she has one line that she says without the mask, and then immediately it's like bam, shot in the face and a fucking burned to a crisp during that like whole fail-safe sequence.
Not just that, it was like even before the incinerator goes off, they're looting her body.
Yeah.
She deserved better.
It was like, hey, she would have wanted me to have it.
Yeah, I guess that's true. And but yeah, I do agree with the whole Sentry thing, because at first I was kind of caught off guard. I was like, man, that doesn't look right on Pullman. But then you sort of you realize, like, oh yeah, that's the point. Yeah,
because this is Val trying to basically be like Vought in The Boys. It is like she is trying to push Sentry as like this corporate product, with a person like Bob who, through no fault of his own, is not the right person to try and become a superhero.
Right.
Yeah. Some people were saying that they were too harsh on John Walker. They were a little too mean on him. Did you all think about that? That they were a little too. They were kind of.
I think it's a difference between what his character is supposed to be in the different medias we've seen him in. Because in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, he's meant to be an antagonist. We're meant to really dislike him. And through subsequent rewatches of it, I start to kind of see more of his side, where he is the guy who was chosen by the government, but who really wants to do right by the Shield. He's just not the right person for the job. And here we start to see, especially in the beginning, where John is much more of an asshole to everybody in the Thunderbolts, especially Bob. You start to see those walls kind of come down. You start to see Steve, the man who was the Captain America who never was.
Yeah, it's also nice that the comic book, John Walker is always a jackass. Like he is always at 11, really unlikable character. And Wyatt Russell is charming. He's likable. He's got a certain charisma to him. And I always you could see that he, especially in the Godzilla series he did with his dad, where they're playing the same character.
It feels so good.
Kurt Russell's got a lot more charisma than his son does, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm not, not judging him there. But like there's a charm to him, and that was what I liked about him when he was first introduced. I'm like, okay, this is a different John Walker than the comic. I was wondering if they were going to use his other alias, because at one point John Walker needed to have an alias, so they changed his name to Jack Daniels. Because he has to be named after an alcoholic beverage, I guess. Maybe Budweiser was already taken. I don't know.
I don't know how you can work Yangling into a name.
Yeah. Well, maybe with Stephen Yeun playing him, that would have been a different. But yeah, no, it's I liked the thing is though, it's like here you kind of get to actually see him bring his guard down a bit, because he always kind of had it up in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and at the beginning of the movie where he's a bit of a dick, and he kind of never stops being a dick to Bob. But
especially like in the first act when they finally get out of the basement where he's trying to take charge, which he is kind of super qualified to do.
Yeah,
it all comes from a place of showing off.
Yeah, and he just isn't a good leader is the thing. He has like the potential of being a great team member, but like he thinks he's Captain America, and like through the movie he kind of stepped back, let his guard down, and let the other people take over, and I think it worked better for him, and you start to actually root for him a little bit. I do think they could have done a little more with that, but I think there was a lot of stuff they could have done a little more of, because I don't think they developed Ghost enough in this either. Tragically underdeveloped, because she has such a great backstory and that, but I mean, this is Yelena's story, to be honest with you. It's not any of the other characters, so
yeah.
I understand why. I just hope that she finally gets a real moment to shine as a hero, as Ghost, like a Ghost-centered story.
She'd be good in if they do one of those one shots, maybe she'd be good.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome for her. There. Yeah. I mean, Yelena is, I think, definitely her and Bob are the two big real standouts in this movie. I think.
And they're also the focal point. Like they are the the antagonist and the protagonist.
Yeah. And what they do with Bob and him being the void, and how that's kind of a metaphor for the depression and everything like that. I thought that was handled really, really well.
Especially in the third act, because the third act takes place, after they have the big set piece of, it's not the Thunderbolts like fighting Bob, because they tried that, it failed horribly. It's them just trying to save civilians. It's them trying to, save people, which is not nearly as big a focus as it should be in like most superhero movies, even now. But the real emotional climax is in the void with between Bob and Yelena in one of his shame rooms, where we see the abuse that Bob suffered as a kid, And it's so heartbreaking to watch, especially with Lewis Pullman's performance. And you start to see more as Yelena, reaches out to him and is like, has that line of, it doesn't go away, but if, together it feels a little lighter. And even the background of the room lights up. It was just, damn, this movie is so good.
Yeah. So, Andrew, you being a comic book guy, where do you see? I mean, we saw the stinger there with it, and that's a stinger. I think that's mostly probably from Doomsday. I think because Anthony and Joe Russo.
Joe and Anthony Russo shot and directed that set.
They actually did that 4 weeks ago.
Okay,
which is amazing.
So, where do you think these characters go from here?
Oh, that's tough to say because I think we'll really know once Fantastic Four comes out, because that one's kind of a big question mark, because it looks like they're trying to do a lot in that movie, and I'm worried that they're not going to be quite as successful, even though that is a great cast that they have as Fantastic Four. And just the trailers that I've seen, they look like they gel really well together. So I am actually looking forward to it. It's just what that movie has to do to kind of get us prepared for Doomsday. I'm worried that it might not have, it might not succeed at doing that.
Okay. And Sentry, do you think, I mean, he's going to be a major player there, given how OP he is? You think you're going to try to make it like, oh, he can't be really the Sentry kind of guy because he's so OP'd? And I mean, in this current MCU, is he the most powerful character in all of the MCU?
He pretty much is. I mean, his weakness is the fact that he is also a villain, and that's why I was like annoyed by the whole retconning of that Bendis did to the character, because I thought it kind of ruined a lot of what made him unique and interesting, and then he just ends up being another like Superman knockoff, which is the whole point, that he's not. He's set up to be Superman, but he has this dark side to him. So it's not, it's a very fresh character, comparatively speaking.
Sentry is kind of like, in the comics, he's kind of like the walking nuclear option. Because like he's the break glass in case of emergency, we're all fucked kind of character.
Yes.
Because every time you like use Sentry, there is like that ticking time bomb of, okay, when is the Void coming out?
Yeah.
And the brilliant thing is, do you know about how they first rolled out and introduced us to Sentry in the comics?
I'm not familiar. No.
Okay, this is absolutely brilliant. Now, like I said before, it was originally developed by Paul Jenkins and Steve Bissett. And they somehow along the lines, it ended up Jay Lee was working on it, and Jose Vallarrubia, and I hope I said his name right. He did the beautiful job picking the colors for the costume, trying to make him not look like Superman. It was like this. But what they did that was kind of brilliant is they actually got Stan Lee to say in a actual like a comic book magazine, not like in the back pages of a Marvel book, but in like Wizards, which was like the big magazine about comics, that we published a book called Century before we did Fantastic Four, but I totally forgot about it. And there's like this fake comic artist that did it, who wasn't Jack Kirby. It was like I forget the name that they used, and like Stan Lee and this other guy created this character, and he was supposed to be Marvel Superman, and then they forgot about it. So the whole thing is that the Marvel universe forgot this guy existed, and as they go through the origin, people start remembering who he was. And so like he had all these big adventures with the Fantastic Four and Spider-Man and the Hulk, and really interesting dynamics with these characters. As the series went out, they had like these little one shots to kind of explore that. You don't need to read the one shots, even though some of them are just beautiful, but you do, like the whole series, and plus the final, there's like a separate issue that's kind of wraps everything up beautifully. Kind of tells you the story of Sentry, and it's about alcohol abuse, because he gets his powers from drinking the formula, and he hasn't drunk it in years. It feels very much like Miracle Man. If you ever read Alan Moore's Miracle Man, a very similar feel to the beginning, where he kind of remembers that in Miracle Man, it opens up with like a loser guy in his mid-40s who remembers the magic words to turn himself into a superhero. And that's where the story kind of begins. And this, very similarly, this loser guy in his 40s remembers, oh man, I got this drink, and if I drink it, I become a superhero. And it's the addiction of that, and the void is part of that addiction, which is great. And I definitely recommend reading that. And they did a good job of like picking enough from it to tell the story without being able to, without repeating it, but also making it work for what it is, which I really liked. And I'm glad that they didn't go like, oh yeah, he was in it in the game. Remember when he fought Thanos?
Yeah.
That would have been terrible.
Yeah. Looks like we really enjoyed Thunderbolts all around there. So very nice. Thank you so much, Andrew. There, thanks, man, for showing up. Thanks for coming by for the review. I don't know if you want to.
I got one more story for you if you got a minute.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
I
mean,
it was this was in back in '98. I was at that comic book art museum, and Bernie Wrightson was doing a speech. And if you don't know who Bernie Wrightson is, he's the co-creator of Swamp Thing. He kind of was the first artist to really make zombies look like what we think of zombies today. Absolute legend. He did set design work on Ghostbusters. So like he made Slimer. He worked on The Faculty. He's done Stephen King books. Like, the man's an absolute legend. And he gave a speech about his career, which was amazing. Afterwards, he goes out front of the museum and he's smoking, and I'm hanging out talking with him, and so are a couple other people. And this British guy explodes out of the museum. And he's just like, Betty! Oh, buddy, it's great to see you again. He's like, hey, let's go grab a beer. And Bernie turns to me and the other people and is like, hey, guys, because he's got like this deep, like smoke choke voice. Hey, guys, want to come join us? So I'm just like, trying to keep it cool. And I'm just like, yeah. So we go to this bar, and he, the British guy disappears in it, and he brings us around back. And I walk in, the first thing I see in the bar is a hammerhead shark with an arm hanging out of it. And I'm like, okay, we're in the right place. They take us to this back room. It's like this library. We kept expecting like the bookcase to spin around and the waitress to come out with their drinks. It was a if you actually walk into this place, it's like filled with like old signs from the town, paintings of like homeless people and prostitutes. It's such a surreal place to visit. And so we're sitting there, and the British guy just starts talking, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm leaving Hellblazer. I got this call from Jimmy and Joe, and we're going to be doing this new comics called I think they're calling it Marvel Knights. and he was actually working on a pitch for a Black Widow book at the time. Ended up becoming Inhumans with Jay Lee. But he stopped and he goes, I haven't introduced myself. I'm Paul. And I'm like, oh crap, this is Paul Jenkins.
Oh shit.
This is the guy who created the Century, who ended up, later on writing the origin of Wolverine.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And I'm having dinner with him and Bernie Wrightson right now. And Bernie Wrightson was just about to sign a deal with this, which ended up becoming that terrible Punisher series he did. I know Bernie's not listening because he's dead now, but wherever he is, I'm sorry to say that.
Damn.
The artwork was beautiful, but that so in the 90s they killed off the Punisher by him committing suicide, and they did this series where where God brings him back to life to kill demons, which is like the worst Punisher thing you've ever read.
Like even Punisher was like in Welcome Back Frank, where they mentioned that. I was like, yeah, that was stupid.
Yeah, exactly. So it was just an absolute amazing night. It culminated. We ended up going to another bar after that bar we were at. At the end of the night, Paul Jenkins looks at Bernie Wrightson and asks one of those questions like that you just want to hear somebody answer. And he goes, as an artist, do you feel that your work is constantly getting better, or do you have like an epiphany and your work is suddenly better. And I'm like, oh, this will be interesting. And Bernie's like, oh, I feel like my work's been in a decline. I'm losing my eyesight. Just a real genuine answer, which was a little sad but beautiful and poignant and thoughtful.
Mm-hmm.
And then Paul Jenkins turns to me and asked me about my art. So that was an absolute, just amazing night. 20 years old, just having all of this happen to me. Now, about what was this? This was in October, about maybe 7 months later. The Word and Pictures Museum was having a release party for the Marvel Knights line. So they had everybody: Kevin Smith, Joe Quesada, Jimmy Palmiotti, Mark Texiera, and was it M.D. Bright? Or no, who's the guy who wrote the Black Panther series? I can't remember. He was funny though. Christopher Priest, that's his name. What am I saying? M.D. Bright. Christopher Priest. All those guys were there. And so is Paul Jenkins and Jay Lee, who were, the creators of Century. And I asked if Paul Jenkins remembered me from that night, and he says, like, no, mate, I'm sorry, I don't. But I got some cool stories from that party, and that's another story from another time. But yeah, that's how I met the creators of Century.
Wow, that is awesome.
Thank you so much there, Andrew. Yeah. Will you be back? Help me with Fantastic Four?
I would love to.
I would love to have you on. Yeah. Well, got to have 4 people on. Throw up the 4s. Got to have 4 people throw up the 4.
Damn it! Am I going to have to light myself on fire for it?
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to be the Human Torch, man. You got to do that.
Yeah.
Do it for the squad, man.
Well, I see Chris is already ready to be the Thing.
Yeah. It's kind of King Shark. Yeah, that's kind of Thing-esque already.